The HR conference room smelled like cheap air freshener and broken promises. I sat across from Evan Cole, our new CEO, and Patricia from Human Resources. They slid a termination letter across the polished table. My hands didn't shake when I picked it up. 20 years of loyalty, reduced to 2 paragraphs and a signature line. "Department restructuring," Patricia said, not meeting my eyes. Through the glass walls, I could see my team pretending to work while sneaking glances at us. Evan leaned back in his chair, arms crossed, that smug smile playing on his lips. "Don't take it personally, Lydia," he said. "You're just legacy code, it's time we updated." Something cold settled in my chest. He had no idea what those words meant. No idea what I actually owned. I looked at him calmly, then signed the paper. His smile widened. He thought he'd won. "Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here with me today. Before I begin, I'd love to know where you're watching me from. Drop your country in the comments section. And also subscribe to this channel. Now, let me take you into this story." The walk from HR to my desk felt like moving through water. Voices dropped to whispers as I passed. 20 years of memories lined that hallway. The coffee stain on the carpet from the day we landed our first major client. The dent in the wall from when Marcus wheeled his chair too fast during our product launch celebration. Now I was packing it all into a cardboard box. My hands moved automatically, grabbing the coffee mug my team gave me, the small plant that somehow survived my care, the framed photo of the original garage office. Vanessa stood by my desk, holding a latte and wearing Evan's cologne. She was my replacement, 23 years old and dating the boss. "Need help carrying that?" she asked, voice dripping with false sweetness. I looked past her at my old terminal, still logged in, still running. On the screen, a small notification blinked. "License expires in 7 days. I picked up my box and walked out without answering. My apartment felt too quiet that afternoon. I set the box on the kitchen table and stared at it for a long time. 20 years of my life, fitting in something you'd use to store books. I opened it slowly, pulling out each item like an archaeologist uncovering artifacts. The coffee mug, the plant already drooping, that photo of the garage where it all started. Back then, Intelenet Systems was just 3 people and a dream. No fancy offices, no glass walls, no Evan Cole. Just me, 2 founders who actually cared, and code that needed writing. I'd built the entire system architecture from scratch because we couldn't afford to buy anything. Worked nights and weekends, fueled by pizza and purpose. At the bottom of the box, my fingers brushed against something I'd forgotten. A certificate in a plastic sleeve. "Software license agreement," it read. "Licensed to Intelenet Systems. Licensed by Lydia Myers." My name, not theirs, mine. I called Martha the next morning. She'd been the company's lawyer back when we actually were a startup, before retiring to her beach house and a garden she loved more than contracts. "Lydia," her voice crackled with surprise. "Sweetheart, I heard what happened. I'm so sorry." I told her about the license certificate, reading the terms aloud while she listened quietly. When I finished, there was a long pause. "Lydia," she said slowly, "do you understand what this means?" I wasn't sure I did. "The license was never transferred," Martha explained. "You leased it to Intelenet under your personal ownership. It renews automatically every 5 years, but you have to be actively employed or they have to negotiate new terms." My heart started pounding. "And if they didn't renew before they fired me?" Martha's laugh was sharp. "Then that software isn't theirs anymore. It's yours, all of it." That night, I logged into my private cloud account. The one I'd maintained separately for 20 years. The one that housed the core framework for Intelenet's entire system. The dashboard lit up with activity. Hundreds of transactions per second. Thousands of client requests being processed. Millions of dollars flowing through code I'd written in that garage, code I'd maintained and updated and protected like it was my child. And it was all pinging my servers. Every single request, every client interaction, every piece of data that made Intelenet worth $300 million, it all ran through my framework. They had no idea. Evan had fired me, called me legacy code, smiled while security escorted me out. And all this time, his entire empire was built on systems I owned. I leaned back in my chair and whispered to my empty apartment, "Let's see how long they last without an update." Inside Intelenet's boardroom, Evan was celebrating. I knew because Sam, my protege who still worked there, texted me a photo. Evan stood at the head of the table, pointing at a presentation slide that showed quarterly savings. My salary, apparently, was a significant line item. "We've cut the dead weight," Evan told the investors. "Streamlined operations, positioned ourselves for maximum efficiency." The investors nodded, impressed by numbers that looked good on paper. A major tech firm was interested in acquiring Intelenet. The deal could close within months. During the meeting, someone's laptop froze. Just for a second, Evan waved it off. "Network hiccup," he said confidently. But Sam caught it on camera, the tiny lag, the brief moment where the system stuttered. He sent it to me with one word. "Beginning," I replied with a simple emoji. A clock. 2 days later, Intelenet's public client portal started glitching. Nothing major at first, just small things. Loading times increased by a few seconds. A form would need refreshing. Some data took longer to sync. But in enterprise software, small things become big things fast. Client emails started arriving. "Is everything okay with the system? We're experiencing some delays. Our reports aren't generating correctly." The customer service phones lit up. Sam told me the support team was drowning in tickets, all saying the same thing. Something was wrong. That evening, I received an email from Sam. "Lydia, something's seriously wrong. Your framework stopped syncing properly. Vanessa's trying to fix it, but nobody understands the architecture. They deleted your documentation months ago. What's happening?" I stared at that email for a long time before responding. "The system's just doing what it was designed to do, running on a valid license. That's all." Sam and I met at a small cafe 3 blocks from Intelenet's office. He looked exhausted, dark circles under his eyes. "It's chaos in there," he said, stirring his coffee nervously. "Vanessa's in over her head. Evan gave her your entire project because, well, you know why." I knew. Office rumors traveled fast. "She doesn't understand how anything connects. She's trying to rebuild parts of the framework from scratch, but it's like trying to reverse engineer a car when you've only ever ridden a bicycle." Sam pulled out his laptop, showing me internal reports. Error logs that went back 72 hours, failed sync attempts, corrupted data packets. "They deleted all your documentation," Sam said quietly. "Evan ordered it, said we didn't need ancient history cluttering the drives." I felt anger turn cold and sharp inside me. 20 years of carefully written guides, tutorials, system maps, gone. "Sam," I asked carefully, "how bad is it really?" He met my eyes. "An investor called Evan yesterday, said if we lose another client, the acquisition's off." I became a silent observer, watching from the outside as my former company unraveled. Every evening, I'd log into my monitoring dashboard and check the system health metrics. Response times climbing, error rates increasing, client satisfaction scores dropping. I didn't have to do anything. The system was simply running on expired credentials, trying to authenticate against a license that no longer existed. Like a car running on fumes, it kept going on momentum alone, but eventually physics would win. Sam kept me updated through encrypted messages. Evan was panicking but hiding it well. Vanessa was working 18-hour days, trying to patch problems she didn't understand. The support team was telling clients it was routine maintenance issues. But I knew the truth. The foundation was cracking. And nobody inside those glass walls understood that the building was mine. I'd built it. I owned it. And I was watching it fall with cold, quiet satisfaction. It happened on a Tuesday night. The first complete collapse. Intelenet's largest client, a healthcare network that processed millions of transactions daily, had their entire data system corrupt overnight. Patient records became inaccessible. Billing froze. The client's CEO called Evan at 2 a.m, threatening legal action. By dawn, the system had shut down completely. Sam sent me screenshots of the emergency meeting. Evan was shouting at the IT team, his face red with rage. "One fix this now." But they couldn't, because the failure wasn't technical, it was legal. My license key, the one that authenticated every core function, had expired. The system recognized this and automatically entered safe mode, locking down to prevent unauthorized use. Sam's message came through at 6. "They found something in the logs. Your expired license key triggered the shutdown. Lydia, what's happening?" I renewed my personal license that morning. Quietly, privately, in my own cloud account. Intelenet couldn't. They didn't own the rights. Martha's beach house had a view of the ocean. We sat on her deck drinking coffee while waves crashed below. "It's airtight," Martha said, reviewing documents spread across the table. You own the intellectual property outright. The original license was a lease, not a transfer. When they terminated your employment without negotiating new terms, the lease expired. I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks, a genuine smile. What if they try to keep using it? I asked. Martha's expression turned serious. Then it's copyright infringement, software piracy. You could sue for damages, and given their client base and revenue, we're talking tens of millions, maybe more. She leaned forward. Lydia, they're going to figure this out eventually. When they do, they'll come crawling back. You need to decide what you want. I watched the ocean, thinking about Evan's smirk, Vanessa's false sympathy, 20 years of loyalty repaid with a cardboard box. I want them to understand, I said quietly. That legacy code is still code, and code has an owner. The news broke publicly 3 days later. Intellinet's biggest client issued a press release about significant data loss and system failures that had compromised their operations. They were seeking alternative software providers. The story hit tech news sites within hours. Intellinet's stock price dropped 16% before lunch. Sam sent me a recording he'd secretly made during the board meeting. Evan's voice was shrill, defensive. This is a temporary setback. We have our best people on it. Your best people, an investor interrupted. Didn't you just fire your senior systems analyst, the one who built this whole thing? Silence on the recording. Then Evan, quieter. That was a necessary restructuring decision. Find her, another voice commanded. I don't care what it takes. We need Lydia Myers back in this building. The recording ended. Sam's message followed. They're desperate. Evan's losing control. What are you going to do? I didn't answer right away. I just listened to that recording again, hearing the panic in Evan's voice. Sweet, cold satisfaction. Vanessa called on a Friday afternoon. Her voice was shaky, professional mask barely holding. Lydia, I know things ended badly, but we need your help. The system is failing and nobody understands the architecture like you do. I let the silence stretch. Please, Vanessa continued. I'm asking as a professional. We need you to come back as a consultant, just to stabilize things. We'll pay whatever rate you want. I stood at my apartment window, watching rain streak the glass. Part of me wanted to hang up, but another part, the part that had spent 20 years building something beautiful, needed to see this through properly. I'd have to be rehired, I said calmly. Not as a consultant, as a full employee with complete system control and public acknowledgement of my ownership of the framework. Vanessa hesitated. I'll have to talk to Evan. You do that, I said. And Vanessa, tell him legacy code doesn't just disappear because you want it to. It has to be maintained by someone who understands it. I hung up before she could respond. The board rehired me on Monday. Temporary consultant was the official title, but everyone knew the truth. They were begging. Security handed me a new badge. I walked through that lobby again, past the receptionist who'd watched me leave with my cardboard box, past the conference room where I'd been fired, straight to my old desk. Vanessa had taken it over. She stood quickly when she saw me, gathering papers with trembling hands. I'll move my things, she mumbled. I sat down at the terminal and logged in. My credentials still worked. I'd made sure of that. But when I opened the system directories, my blood went cold. Files were missing. Entire sections of code had been altered. And the backup systems, the redundant safety nets I'd carefully built over 20 years, were corrupted beyond recognition. Vanessa had tried to fix things she didn't understand. She'd broken everything. I looked up at her, standing there with her box of belongings, and said quietly, What did you do? I spent the next week rebuilding, not for them, for me. I created a new version of the framework, cleaner and more efficient than the original. But this time, every line of code was explicitly licensed under my name. Every function, every module, every algorithm. Mine. The office watched me work. People whispered. Evan avoided me sending instructions through Vanessa or Sam. Fine by me. I didn't need to see his face. Late one evening, while everyone else had gone home, I received an email from an unfamiliar address. Nextware Technologies read the signature. The message was brief. Ms. Myers, we've been following the situation at Intellinet with great interest. We understand you're responsible for their core architecture. We're building something new and would like to discuss a partnership. Are you available for a conversation? I stared at that email for a long time. Nextware was Intellinet's biggest competitor. Young, aggressive, well-funded. Everything Intellinet used to be before Evan Cole showed up. I clicked reply and typed, I'm very interested. Let's talk. Installing the diagnostic patch was easy. I did it during my lunch break, buried in routine maintenance code that nobody would think to check. The patch did something elegant and simple. It scanned Intellinet's entire network and documented every instance where my framework was being used. Every server, every client connection, every piece of my code running without proper licensing. Created a digital paper trail, time-stamped and encrypted, proving that Intellinet was operating software they didn't own. When the scan finished, I had everything. Dates, times, client names, transaction volumes, revenue estimates, all of it evidence that could be used in court. I exported the data to an encrypted file and emailed it to Martha with a single sentence. "Ready when you are." Martha's response came within minutes. "Give me 24 hours. This is going to be spectacular." I saved the email, logged out of my terminal, and walked past Evan's office. Through the glass, I could see him on a call laughing about something, still clueless, still thinking he'd won. Legacy code, still running just fine. Martha's legal notice arrived by courier the next morning. I wasn't there to see it, but Sam described everything. The envelope was delivered directly to the board chairman. Heavy paper, law firm letterhead, the kind of delivery that makes executives nervous. Inside was a formal notice of intellectual property infringement, 10 pages detailing exactly how Intellinet had been operating my software without proper licensing, the timestamps from my diagnostic patch, the revenue calculations, the client list, all of it documented with the precision of 20 years' experience. The board went into emergency session. Evan was summoned. Within an hour, Sam said the acquisition deal was frozen. The potential buyers wanted clarification on IP ownership concerns before proceeding. Intellinet's stock dropped another 12%. My phone buzzed with messages. Former coworkers asking if I knew what was happening. Reporters requesting comments. Vanessa calling, then calling again. I ignored them all, except for one, Evan's direct line. It rang 6 times before I answered. "You did this," he said. His voice was ice. I smiled at my empty apartment. "No, Evan, you did this. I just maintained the code." We faced each other in the glass conference room, the same room where he'd fired me 6 weeks earlier. Evan sat across the table, tie loosened, jaw clenched. Patricia from HR sat beside him, silent and pale. I came alone. I didn't need backup. "You're destroying this company," Evan said. 20 years of work." I leaned back, matching his posture. "My 20 years of work, you mean? The work you called legacy code? The work you decided to update by firing me? You think this is justice?" His voice rose. People outside glanced through the glass. "No," I said calmly. "This is maintenance. You wanted to update the system. Congratulations. You're learning what happens when you don't read the license agreement." Evan slammed his hand on the table. "We built this company together." "No, I built the company. You walked into something already running and decided you owned it." I stood up, gathering my things. "The difference, Evan, is that I actually read contracts before I signed them." I walked out, leaving him staring at the blank server dashboard on the screen behind me. The news broke everywhere simultaneously. Tech blogs, business networks, even mainstream media picked it up. Software companies shut down for licensing violations. Intellinet Systems faces IP lawsuit. Fired employee owns the code. The details spilled out like water from a cracked dam. How I'd built everything from scratch. How the company had never properly transferred ownership. How Evan had fired me without understanding what he was losing. Clients fled. Every major account started migration procedures to alternative providers. Nobody wanted to risk their data on a company facing legal uncertainties and system failures. Intellinet's stock hit rock bottom. Trading was suspended. Evan was subpoenaed for corporate negligence. Then Vanessa resigned. She posted a public statement on her social media, exposing Evan's shortcuts, his ignored warnings, his prioritizing of personal relationships over professional competence. The post went viral. Within 48 hours, Evan was facing calls for his resignation from the board, from investors, from former employees. I watched it all on the news, sitting in my apartment with cold coffee and quiet vindication. Nextware's headquarters was everything Intellinet used to be, open, energetic, filled with people who actually cared about the work. Their CEO, Marcus Webb, met me in a conference room with floor-to-ceiling windows. "We've been watching what happened," Marcus said, shaking my hand. "I'm sorry you went through that." "I'm not," I replied. He raised an eyebrow. "Really? It taught me something important. Never build something you don't own." Marcus smiled. "Then you're going to love what we're proposing." He slid a contract across the table. Chief Technology Officer, full creative control, equity stake, a salary that made my old Intelenet pay look like an internship stipend. But the best part was the final clause. All intellectual property created by the CTO remains jointly owned, with the CTO retaining permanent licensing rights and creative authority. I read it twice to make sure I understood. You're giving me ownership. We're giving you partnership, Marcus corrected. We don't want another Intelenet situation. We want to build something real, together. I picked up the pen. My hand didn't shake. Joining Nextware felt like coming home to a place I'd never been before. My new office had windows that actually opened. My team was diverse, talented, hungry to build something meaningful. And my first project was integrating my framework into Nextware's architecture. This time I did it right. Clean code, comprehensive documentation, training programs for the team. Everything Intelenet should have been. Within 3 weeks, we had a working prototype. Within 6 weeks, we were ready for beta testing. And our first major client, the healthcare network that had left Intelenet after the data corruption disaster. They'd heard about my move to Nextware and requested a demonstration. I gave it personally. Showed them the new system, explained the safeguards, walked them through security protocols I developed specifically to prevent the kind of failures that had destroyed Intelenet. They signed a 5-year contract before I finished the presentation. As I left their office, my phone buzzed, an unlisted number. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Hello? Lydia, Evan's voice, smaller now, defeated. We need to talk. We met at a neutral coffee shop. Not the corporate cafe near Intelenet's office, but a quiet place downtown where nobody would recognize us. Evan looked terrible. Unshaved, wrinkled shirt, the kind of exhaustion that comes from watching everything collapse. Thank you for meeting me, he said. I didn't respond, just waited. Intelenet is filing for bankruptcy, he said quietly. The board voted last night, we're done. Part of me felt satisfaction. Another part, smaller but present, felt something like sadness. Not for Evan, but for what the company used to be. I'm sorry, Evan continued. For what I said, for how I treated you, for not understanding what you'd built. You're sorry you got caught, I corrected. He flinched. Maybe, but I'm also sorry I was wrong about you, about legacy code. He slid an envelope across the table. I'm offering you 10% of the company. If you help us rebuild, renegotiate with clients, save what's left. I looked at the envelope without touching it. Evan, there's nothing left to save. You made sure of that. Please. No, I stood up. You called me legacy code. You were right. Legacy means something that endures, something valuable passed down. That's exactly what I am. And now I'm building that legacy somewhere that deserves it. Intelenet filed for bankruptcy protection on a cold morning in November. The announcement was brief, clinical, stripped of all the energy that once filled those offices. Within a week, employees started reaching out to me. Sam first, of course. Nextware hearing, he asked. Always, I replied. When can you start? Then others from my old team. The engineers who'd watched through glass as I was fired. The analysts who'd quietly disagreed with Evan's decisions. The support staff who'd known the company was crumbling. I hired them all. Gave them positions at Nextware, fair salaries, and something they'd lost at Intelenet, respect. Marcus supported every hire. You know these people, he said. You trust them, that's good enough for me. Then came the bigger announcement. Nextware was acquiring Intelenet's remaining assets, not the debts, not the lawsuits, just the physical property and the brand name. We're buying the office building, Marcus told me. Thought you might like your old space back, but with better management this time. I laughed, actually laughed. Can I have the glass conference room? It's yours. Walking through Intelenet's empty lobby felt surreal. The security desk sat unmanned. The reception area was dark. My footsteps echoed on marble floors that used to buzz with activity. Nextware's acquisition team followed behind me, documenting everything, but I moved ahead of them, drawn by memory. I found my old desk stripped bare. The plant was gone, probably dead. The photo of the garage office had disappeared. Even the coffee stain on the carpet had been cleaned. I walked to Evan's former office. Someone had cleared it out already. Just an empty room with a view nobody would enjoy anymore. Then I made my way to the conference room. The glass walls still showed everything. The table where they'd fired me still sat in the center. And there, in a drawer someone forgot to empty, I found it. My old nameplate. Lydia Myers, Senior Systems Analyst. I held it for a long moment. Then I took out the new one from my bag. Lydia Myers, Chief Technology Officer, Nexware Technologies. I set them side by side, took a photo, and left the old one in the drawer. New nameplate came with me. My new office at Nexware's acquired building had the best view. I sat at my desk as sunset painted the sky orange and pink. My laptop was open, running diagnostics on the new system. Everything green, everything stable, everything running smoothly. On the wall behind me hung my framed license certificate, the original one from 20 years ago, but beside it a new one. Updated, official, comprehensive, 50-year licensing term. My name at the top, bold and clear. I pulled up my private cloud account and navigated to the license renewal page. Selected the drop-down menu, clicked 50 years, confirmed. The system processed it silently. No fanfare, no celebration, just a quiet update that protected everything I'd built. My phone buzzed. Sam from his new office 2 floors down. System's running perfectly. Whatever you did back then, you did it right. I smiled and typed back. Legacy code, still running just fine. Outside, city lights began to glow. Somewhere across town, Evan was probably packing boxes or meeting with lawyers. Vanessa had moved to another state, according to social media. Intelenet was a memory, but I was still here, still coding, still building, still owning what I created. I whispered to my empty office, legacy code. Then I opened a new file and started writing the next chapter. If you love this story, kindly subscribe to this channel and stay tuned as I bring more interesting stories to you.